Hello everyone. Welcome back to another Commander review for Magic the Gathering. Today we are talking about Ith, High Arcanist from the Time Spiral set. One of my favorite legendary creatures I've played with throughout my years of playing Magic, and very cool mechanics to build around with this commander. Let's get right on into it. Ith is a legendary human wizard with a power and toughness of 3/5. Great blocker. And then it has a mana value of 7. 5 generic, 1 white, and 1 blue mana. So very expensive. It has the Vigilance keyword, so attacking does not cause it to tap. And then it has a cool tap ability, where it's tap, untap target attacking creature, prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and dealt by that creature this turn. So it's essentially a maze of Ith, which is funny because this is Ith, whom the maze is named after. And it has the same ability as Maze of Ith, but on a commander, which is great because it'll always be in your command zone. And then it has one of the coolest abilities ever seen. I do want to pull this up real quick. It has Suspend 4, and I'm going to explain Suspend, and then while I'm doing that, I'm going to look something up, because I want to make sure I'm explaining it correctly. But Suspend 4, and then it has a cost of 1 white, 1 blue. When you pay the 1 white, 1 blue, you are putting this card into exile with 4 time counters on it. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, you remove a time counter from the suspended card. In this case, it would be Ith. When the last time counter is removed, sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. You can cast this card from exile for free, and if it's a creature, it gains haste, which is very, very cool. Love the suspend mechanic. Some of my favorite cards as a kid when I first started playing this game had Suspend. I loved the Suspend mechanic. It was so cool. This was, I bought so many like boxes of Suspend cards. So much money spent on this set. Such a cool stuff. So what I'm looking up here is Suspend MTG Commander tax. I want to see. I want to just check this out. The one question I have is... Oh gosh, get out of my way, little adverts. Suspend is a keyword that represents... So my question is, if Ith is your commander, and I don't think I looked this up because there's no card rulings for this commander. It's a Maze of Ith on Ith, the creature. So there's no card rulings, but for Suspend itself, does the command tax apply, and where does it apply? Because if you suspend it, I don't think you can suspend it from the command zone. I think you can only suspend cards from your hand. While the card with Suspend... Yeah, the first is a static ability that functions while the card with Suspend is in a player's hand. Gotcha. Okay. So that's the big kicker with this commander, is Suspend, you can only suspend cards from your hand. And I wish I could pull up a card that had the reminder text, or I would just look it up right here. I just want to... Give me a card that just reads it. I love looking up rules. It's so nice. You know, just taking all this time away. Okay, here's actually the quote, the parenthesis rules text of Suspend that would be printed on Ith. And this is how you would read it. Rather than cast this card from your hand, you may pay a white and a blue and exile it with 4 time counters on it. And I believe that means you need to be able to exile it from your hand. if we're referring to the rules earlier, red, that it needs to be exiled from your hand. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a time counter. When the last is removed, cast it without paying its mana cost. It gains haste. Phrase if you can cast this. Phrase if you can cast this card from your hand. Checks for only time restrictions. Includes exiling card with its suspended ability, not casting that card. Yep. I want the bit where it talks about casting from the hand. Yes, okay, suspend is a keyword that represents 3 abilities. The first is a static ability that functions while the card with suspend is in a player's hand. So, unfortunately, you cannot do the suspend while it's in the command zone, which is sad. But, I mean, we've had Commander Ninjutsu before. Why not give something in the future Commander Suspend? Maybe that already exists. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. Have they maybe in Doctor Who they printed something that had Commander Suspend? That would be interesting. I would love that. So you can't use the suspend while this card is in the command zone, but let's get on with it. This video is getting long as it is. So Maze of Ith, look at that, Maze of Ith. It literally does exactly what the commander does, but it's on a land. And obviously the land version is much better than the creature version, because the creature version has lots of forms of removal. I say that like that simply because there's plenty of land destruction in the commander format. I know land destruction is frowned upon. I have played land destruction. I have lost against the land destruction. I know how frustrating it can be to go up against the land destruction deck, and I know the ethics of land destruction in the commander format. However, they're printed in the game. They exist, and until otherwise proven, they are not banned from the commander format. So you can play land destruction and easily get rid of this card as much as getting rid of the creature itself. But generally it is easier to destroy Ith than it is Maze of Ith. So this is the better version of the actual Ith commander. And then the deck I wanted to build around with this commander is a Pillow Fort deck, where you want to protect yourself, but we're actually going to be very aggressive. If you remember at the beginning of this series, one of the first commanders I built around was, what is he called? Oh, this is going to drive me crazy. It was a Bant commander. Everyone calls him Tim from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Let's see, Legends. Angus Mackenzie. If you remember the Angus Mackenzie video I did, it was literally the second commander review video I made for this series, was Angus Mackenzie. It was a white-blue-green deck. This is white-blue for Ith, so we're just missing the green. And the point of the deck was to be aggressive. Be aggressive. Attack your opponents as much as possible, because Ith can protect at least one of those creatures. And there's other things you can do as well, but Ith can prevent the damage dealt to an attacking creature. So why not do it to one of your attacking creatures? And so this I kind of did with an artifact focus, because Cyberman Patrol is very cool. It gives all artifact creatures you control Afflict 3. And really the point of this deck is you want creatures that have, when this creature becomes blocked, do this thing. So Afflict 3 is whenever a creature with Afflict 3 becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. So they can simply take the 2 damage from Cyberman or any other artifacts you have, or they can block it, take 3 damage, or rather lose 3 life, and then you simply tap Ith to protect that Cyberman Patrol, but the blocked trigger still goes on the stack. So yes, Cyberman Patrol will no longer deal nor receive damage, but it's still going to cause your opponents to lose life because of the Afflict trigger. So this is a white-blue aggro deck where you want to use Maze of Ith and Ith to defend your attackers and then use them as blockers as well, which is why you need Pillow Fort effects like Ghostly Prison. But very interesting deck idea, I think at least. Aggro white-blue with this crazy I want you to block my things, or you just take damage. Regardless, I'm going to hurt you in some way, or draw extra cards, or make you discard cards. The list goes on and on. So let me know what you guys think about this deck idea. And that's going to do it for Ith High Arcanist. Now, as cool as this commander is, and I really do think that this commander is really cool, it is not as popular as some of the other commanders in this set. So it has the rank of B simply because there's not as many different deck ideas on the internet to build around with this commander. And that's including this weird janky aggro deck that I've presented for you in this video. But really cool card. Just remember that you can only use the suspend ability from your hand. You cannot suspend a spell from the command zone, or rather you cannot suspend this card from the command zone and then cast it as a spell later. Just bear that in mind. So it is going to be very expensive to play from the command zone, and that might honestly be the biggest reason why it's not built around as much, because it is an expensive commander to build around. But hey, if you have some way of bouncing it to your hand, if it were to get destroyed or something, you can save it from going back to the command zone, and then be able to suspend it from your hand then for just the 2 mana and be able to continue on with your shenanigans. So, really cool card. I'm a big fan of it. I've played with it on and off for many years of playing Magic the Gathering, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below, especially if there's anything I missed. And thank you guys so much for all your support. As always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!